with the name of Pharmacopolis in the mid-90s when I was writing my dissertation at CU Boulder in English literature. And my dissertation was about connections that I was seeing between 19th century drug literature and late 20th century science fiction. And both of these types of fictions were really interested in depicting virtual reality, and they just had different means for getting there. And I was interested in using these virtual realities as a way to critique the culture and the society, the philosophies of each of these parallel periods. And Pharmacopolis was kind of this imaginary space that I created that combined these two. So I guess you could say in a way I've been interested in both the mind expanding as well as the potentially addictive aspects of virtual technologies for many, many years. More practically, after I got my dissertation and got my doctorate in 1997, I was honestly faced with a pretty dismal job market, and I ended up working at CU Denver after I sort of cold called them and said, hey, I just got my PhD and would love some teaching opportunities if you have anything available. And they said, well, we don't have anything in the classroom, but what we do have is this new thing that we're trying out called CU Online. And we're looking to put courses up on the internet for students who are, looking to squeeze in some of the classes, people who are thinking about going back to school, adult learners, that kind of thing. And would you like to try this out? So I said, sure. I developed as a graduate teacher, I developed a science fiction class, I developed a fantasy literature class, I had also done a travel writing class, and I thought all three of these might be really interesting for people who are, looking to do work remotely. So I taught myself HTML, I taught myself how to do audio streaming. I didn't really have video streaming at the time, but I was doing like kind of slideshows and real simple animations to go along with my recorded lectures. And then my students would, share readings, share writings, do some discussion boards, commentary, and kind of things like that. I missed the classroom, though. I missed the traditional classroom, and I missed being able to connect to students in a real space and to work with them not just through the technology but with the technology and explore things that were emerging in real time for all of us. So you see, in what we used to call digital media studies and now called Emergent Digital Practices is a really interesting challenge as an instructor, because you are oftentimes gaining access to new technologies, new knowledge, new theory, new ideas at the same time that your students are. So it really is kind of an equalizing thing. And I would say in many things, for instance, students are ahead of the game in terms of adopting new technologies than their older faculty members. But then also, oftentimes, the faculty members have a longer history of different emerging technologies, and they also hopefully have more skill at how to think about and critique these technologies. So it can come together, I think, in a really vital and synergistic way. Around the same time that I was doing these online classes, I also happened to get into online radio. I read an article at the Daily Camera out of Boulder about a couple of guys who had started an online radio station. It was very new to be able to do this. It was the first 24-hour techno electronic music radio station in the world. It's called radioval.com. That's been around for quite a while. I was really interested in this site. and wrote these guys up, emailed them I should say, and told them that I had a huge collection of electronic music going back into the 70s stuff that I had collected in the 80s, and that I thought I could bring in some of this electronic space music. Wrote them, told them how excited I was, and they said, well, why don't you do a show for us? So I got into online radio, and I was doing my own DJ mixes for this radio station. And what I really loved about it was the fact that you could connect with listeners from all around the world through email and through real-time chat while you were doing your shows. Around the same time, the group of people that I met doing this online radio station were also people who were producing really interesting parties in the Boulder and Denver area. A group called the ICA, I think it was Intercontextual Arts was the name of the group. And we were putting on, not really raves. For us, this is in, again, late 90s, early 2000s. The rave scene was already kind of over. It was really commercialized. The DJs were all becoming really big name and kind of star entities. They weren't just people there to do free parties anymore. And so this group wasn't really interested in that. There was people who probably came up through that scene. But we were also interested really in, 21st century art and what that looked like as something that was performative, what that looked like as something that was live and eventful. So working with Radio Valve, working with the ICA, teaching online for a while, all of this really was how I taught myself digital skills and started putting into practice the things that I've been reading about in science fiction and thinking about as a writer. And so it was around this time that, again, kind of hunting around, I wanted to stay in Colorado. I happened to check out the University of Denver website, see if they had anything open, and read about this new program that had just dropped called Digital Media Studies. It was in its very first year, and again, cold called them and said, hey, here's what I've been working in. Been doing digital audio production. I've been working with online communities. I've been studying this stuff as a theorist and kind of rooting this back into a lot of interesting theory that for me went all the way back to the 19th century. And got an interview, did a year as a visiting professor, and then was hired full-time. Quickly became graduate director of digital media studies, and many years later after that was director of digital media studies and spearheaded the consolidation of the digital media studies program with the electronic media arts design program, or EMAD, to create Emergent Digital Practices. I'm currently a writer. I've just finished my first book called Sonic Science Fiction, which is a history of sound and sound technologies in science fiction films. I'm beginning a new book which is about improvisation, technology, and our ideas about outer space. And I'm going to be looking at 3 kind of main case studies: Pink Floyd, Sun Ra and his orchestra, and Tangerine Dream, and then use that as a sort of jumping off point to look at kind of a global phenomenon of why people need to know how to improvise in order to accommodate new technologies, and actually in order to develop new technologies. I'm an analog synthesist as well as a digital music creator, and I'm also a video artist doing work primarily in live performative environments, more kind of low-key VJ style accompaniment to live music. One of my highlights of my time doing this was getting to work with the great Nick Turner of Hawkwind, classic late 60s, 70s on to the present space rock group, doing one of his space rituals. And I also do my own solo work, and I'm currently developing a piece for planetariums that will involve my own audio and my own visual work. So enjoyed getting to introduce myself to you here. I'll just wrap up with a few binaries. that might help you get to know me a little bit better. Marvel over DC. But let's throw that binary out because ultimately I'm Image comics all the way. Numinos over Oreos. Magic the Gathering over Pokemon. Mario Karts over Super Smash Brothers. I would say that's probably good. Alright, thank you. Hey, this is Trace.